The first time my best friend called me her boyfriend, I was standing in the kitchen of a house I couldn't afford, holding a tiny paper cup of cucumber water and trying not to choke on it. The realtor smiled like she'd just heard wedding bells. I smiled like a man who had been pushed out of an airplane and was pretending the view was nice. And Clara Wynne, who had been my best friend for 6 years, slipped her hand through my arm and said, calm as Sunday morning, "My boyfriend and I love it." That was the moment I forgot how to swallow. My name is Jonah Reed. I was 27 then, a project coordinator for a small construction company in Raleigh, which sounds more impressive than it felt when most of my job involved arguing with supply invoices and making sure grown men remembered where they left their hard hats. I lived in a one-bedroom apartment above a dentist's office, drove a truck with a heater that worked only when it felt appreciated, and had mastered the art of eating dinner over the sink. Clara knew all of this. Clara also knew I had exactly no business touring a craftsman bungalow with original hardwood floors, a wraparound porch, and a kitchen island big enough to host Thanksgiving for people who used cloth napkins voluntarily. Which was why I had laughed when she picked me up that Saturday morning and said, "I need you for something weird." With you, that could mean anything from moving a couch to identifying a dead raccoon. "It's not a raccoon." "That's not a no." She pulled away from the curb in her little blue Subaru, hair clipped up messily, sunglasses on, looking like she had slept 4 hours and still somehow had the nerve to be beautiful. Clara was 26, a high school art teacher with paint on half her cardigans and opinions about every ugly building in the city. She could make a room warmer just by walking into it, then ruin a man's confidence by beating him at darts while eating fries off his plate. She had been in my life since my second week in Raleigh when I accidentally locked myself out of my apartment and she, my neighbor at the time, handed me a coat hanger and said, "You look like someone who needs a questionable skill." We'd been inseparable ever since. And that was the problem. Because somewhere between late-night taco runs, emergency parent-teacher drama debriefs, helping her paint her classroom over summer break, and her falling asleep on my couch during bad movies, I had developed feelings so inconvenient, I treated them like a plumbing leak behind a wall. Ignore it long enough, maybe the house won't flood. It was a stupid theory. I work around houses. I should have known better. "Where are we going?" I asked as she drove. "To an open house." I turned toward her. "Why?" "Because I want to look at it." "You're house hunting?" "Not officially." That's like saying you're not officially ordering dessert while holding the menu and making eye contact with the waiter. She smiled, but it didn't reach all the way. "Just come with me, Jonah." There it was, the soft part under the joke. Clara didn't ask like that unless something mattered. So I went. The house sat on a quiet street lined with old oaks and mailboxes that looked like they belonged to responsible adults. The porch had two hanging ferns, a red front door, and the kind of swing that made you imagine coffee in the morning with someone you loved. I hated that I imagined Clara there first. She paused at the front walkway, her keys still in her hand. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah." She looked at the house like it might look back. My grandmother's house had a porch like this. I knew about her grandmother. The woman had practically raised her while Clara's parents chased careers and knew zip codes. She died 2 years earlier, and Clara still kept one of her chipped mugs on her kitchen shelf like a relic. "You didn't tell me that," I said. "I didn't want to make it weird." "Clara, you once cried because a bakery stopped making pumpkin scones? We passed weird a long time ago." That got me the real smile. Inside, the realtor greeted us with a glossy folder and the kind of enthusiasm only commission can provide. "Welcome in. I'm Denise. Take your time. Ask anything. Are you two looking in the neighborhood specifically?" Before I could say, "Oh, I'm just emotional support furniture," Clara answered, "We're exploring." We. That was the first warning. The second came when she drifted close enough that her shoulder brushed mine as we stepped into the living room. It was a gorgeous room. Built-in shelves, wide windows, sunlight hitting the floor in clean golden stripes. Clara ran her fingers along the mantel and I watched her face soften. "You'd put books there," she said. I blinked. "Me? You pretend you don't care about bookshelves? But you organize your paperbacks by author when you're stressed. I told you that in confidence. You told me that while alphabetizing Elmore Leonard. I leaned against the doorway. And what would you put there? Plants I swear I won't kill. You will kill them. Probably, but they'll die in a loving home. Denise laughed from the hallway like we were adorable. I should have corrected the assumption right then. I opened my mouth to do it. Then Clara stepped into the kitchen, and everything changed. The kitchen had green cabinets, brass handles, and windows over the sink. Clara stood in the middle of it like she had accidentally walked into a memory. Her hand went to the counter. Her eyes got bright, just for a second. I'd seen Clara angry, sarcastic, tired, brilliant, drunk on 2 margaritas, and furious at a ninth grader's father for calling art class free time. I had rarely seen her look hopeful. It hit me harder than attraction, though attraction was there too, sharp and familiar. The curve of her neck where loose hair had fallen, the way she pressed her lips together when she wanted something and didn't want to admit it. The fact that she fit in that kitchen in a way that made my chest ache. You like it, I said quietly. She nodded once. I really do. Denise appeared with her folder. It's a special one. We've had a lot of interest, especially from young couples. I took a sip of cucumber water to keep from saying something stupid. Clara looked at me. There was a flash in her eyes. Panic, decision, apology, and something else I couldn't name fast enough. Then she hooked her hand through my arm. Warm fingers. Light pressure. Familiar touch, but not like that. Not in front of a realtor. Not with her thumb resting against my wrist like it belonged there. My boyfriend and I love it, she said. The kitchen went silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Denise beamed. Wonderful, are you pre-approved? I coughed so hard Clara patted my back. My boyfriend, I repeated, because apparently my brain had chosen death. Clara squeezed my arm, not hard, just enough to say, please. And because I had never been good at denying Clara Wynne anything, I swallowed the wrong half of my dignity and said, we're working on the details. Denise nodded, thrilled. Well, details matter, but chemistry matters too, and you two have that. Clara's ears turned pink. That was new. I looked down at her hand still looped through my arm, then back at her face. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Denise handed us the property sheet and went to greet another couple at the door. The second she was out of earshot, I leaned closer and whispered, Clara, I can explain. You just promoted me. I know. To boyfriend. I panicked. Most people panic and say they need the bathroom. She finally looked up at me, and the humor in her face was fighting something vulnerable. If I told her I was single, she was going to start talking down payments and income and how hard it is to compete alone. I could feel it coming. So, you drafted me into emotional real estate fraud? It sounds worse when you say it accurately. I should have laughed. I almost did. But her hand was still on my arm, and she hadn't moved away. The other couple wandered into the dining room, polished and confident, talking loudly about knocking down a wall. Clara's grip tightened. I looked at her then, not as my chaotic best friend, not as the woman I'd been quietly in love with while pretending friendship was enough, but as someone standing at the edge of wanting a life she wasn't sure she was allowed to have. So I covered her hand with mine. Her breath caught. It was tiny, barely there, but I felt it. Okay, I said softly. If I'm your boyfriend for the next 20 minutes, I have conditions. Her eyes widened. Conditions? I get to complain about the lack of garage. Storage. A smile broke through. That's very boyfriend of you. And you stop looking like you're apologizing for wanting something beautiful. That took the smile right off her face. For a second, the whole house seemed to hold still around us. Then Denise called from the living room, Jonah, Clara, would you two like to see the primary bedroom? I froze. Clara froze too, because I hadn't told Denise my name. Neither had Clara, but Denise was standing in the doorway, smiling politely, holding a single sheet of paper from the sign-in table. And beneath my name, in Clara's handwriting under relationship to buyer, she had written one word, boyfriend. For one stupid second, I thought the house was haunted. Then I remembered the sign-in sheet by the front door. Clara had written my name down, and boyfriend, before the kitchen, before Denise asked if we were a couple, before Clara supposedly panicked. I looked at her. She looked at the floor. Oh, I whispered. This panic had paperwork. Her cheeks went from pink to full sunrise. Jonah, Denise waited in the hall, still smiling. No rush? No, I said, because apparently my mouth now belonged to a man with a mortgage and feelings. We'd love to see it. Clara's eyes snapped up. I offered her my arm. There was a challenge in it, and she knew me well enough to see it. If she wanted to play couple, fine. But I wasn't going to stand there like a borrowed coat. After one heartbeat, she slipped her hand back around my arm. This time, she didn't do it quickly. This time, her fingers settled. The primary bedroom sat at the back of the house, overlooking a small yard with a maple tree and a crooked bird bath. The room was empty except for sunlight and the echo of possibility. Denise began talking about square footage, closet space, morning light. I heard maybe every fourth word. Because Clara was standing close enough that her hip brushed mine. Because I could smell her shampoo, something citrusy and clean. Because the phrase primary bedroom had introduced several images into my brain that had no place at an open house with a realtor named Denise. Clara glanced sideways at me. You're quiet. I'm being respectful of the closet space. You don't respect closet space. Your laundry lives in a chair. That chair has seniority. Denise laughed again, then excused herself to answer a question from the couple downstairs. The second she left, Clara released my arm and walked to the window. I missed her hand immediately, which was embarrassing. All right, I said. Explain. She folded her arms. I was going to tell you. When? After we registered for towels? It wasn't supposed to be a big deal. You wrote boyfriend next to my name on a legal-ish real estate document. It was a sign-in sheet. It had columns, Clara. That's how bureaucracy starts. She pressed her lips together, fighting a smile and losing. Then the smile faded. I'm sorry. The apology landed between us, sincere enough to kill my teasing. I stepped closer. Hey, she looked out at the maple tree. I saw the listing on Thursday. I don't know why it got to me. I've looked at houses online before. Everyone does that. You click through kitchens you can't afford and judge people's bathroom tile. Naturally. But this one… She touched the window frame. It looked like my grandmother's house. Not exactly, just the feeling of it, the porch, the light, the green cabinets. I didn't interrupt. My lease is up in 4 months, she said, and I've been thinking maybe I should stop living like everything is temporary. That sentence found something tender in me. Clara, who made every place she entered feel lived in, had never believed she could keep anything. Not a city, not a family tradition, not a man who stayed. Her parents loved her in their distracted way, but they'd moved through life like Clara was one more suitcase they expected someone else to carry. You should, I said. She turned. Should what? Stop living like everything is temporary. Her eyes softened, and for once she didn't dodge it with a joke. I put boyfriend, she admitted, because I knew I'd chicken out if I came alone. I thought if the realtor assumed I had someone with me, maybe I'd feel less… She searched for the word. Exposed? Her shoulders dropped. Yeah. I nodded slowly, even though one part of my brain was still waving a flag that said, she chose your name. Why me? I asked. Her laugh was quiet. You really need to ask that? Yes. The word came out rougher than I intended. Clara heard it. Of course she did. She studied me for a long moment, and the air changed. It wasn't fake boyfriend air anymore. It was the kind that comes before a storm or a confession. Because when I picture not being temporary, she said, you're always there. My heart did something painful and hopeful. I stared at her. She stared back, then seemed to realize what she'd said. I mean, as my best friend, obviously. You help me build shelves and tell me when I'm overthinking and eat the corner pieces of brownies because I don't like them. Clara. What? You love corner pieces. She opened her mouth, closed it. I stepped closer again, slowly enough that she could move away if she wanted. She didn't. You give them to me, I said. Her voice dropped. Maybe I like giving you things. There it was. Not a joke. Not panic. A thread stretched tight between us, 6 years long. I wanted to kiss her so badly I had to look at the window to remind myself We were in someone else's unfurnished bedroom while a realtor discussed appraisal contingencies downstairs. Clara's gaze fell to my mouth just once, but once was enough to ruin me. Jonah, she whispered. I leaned in a fraction. Tell me to stop. She didn't. Footsteps sounded in the hall. We sprang apart like teenagers. Denise appeared with a cheerful, So, what do you think? Clara turned toward the closet so fast she nearly walked into the doorframe. I cleared my throat. Great light. Denise looked between us and her smile became knowing enough to make me consider climbing out the window. The house does have that effect, she said. By the time we finished the tour, I had become an alarmingly convincing boyfriend. I commented on the roofline. Clara asked about the age of the HVAC. I pretended we'd discussed commute times. She pretended not to blush every time Denise said, You too? On the porch, Denise handed Clara her card. Offers are due Monday evening. I know it's fast, but homes like this move quickly. Clara's face tightened. There was the real world again, tapping on the glass. Thank you, she said. We walked back to the Subaru in silence. She unlocked it, but neither of us got in. Finally, I said, You hungry? She blinked. What? If I'm your boyfriend today, I'm not ending this with cucumber water and emotional damage. I'm buying you pancakes. It's noon. Pancakes don't respect clocks. Her mouth curved. Is this part of your boyfriend conditions? Yes. Also, I get to hold your hand in the diner if Denise drives by. Very thorough. I'm a professional. Clara looked down at her keys. Jonah. I braced myself, but she didn't say we should forget it. She didn't laugh it off. She held out her hand. Palm up. A choice. My breath left me slowly. I put my hand in hers. Her fingers closed around mine, warm and certain, and every fake thing about the morning fell away so fast it scared me. We stood beside her car on that quiet, oak-lined street, holding hands like it was simple. It was not simple. It was Clara. It was everything. At the diner, we sat in a booth with cracked red vinyl and ordered blueberry pancakes, bacon, and 2 coffees. Our knees touched under the table. Neither of us moved away. So, she said, wrapping both hands around her mug, how am I doing as your fake girlfriend? Honestly, you're overqualified. High praise. You committed fraud with beautiful penmanship. She laughed into her coffee, and I felt that laugh in my ribs. Then she reached across the table and stole a piece of bacon from my plate. Girlfriend tax, she said. I caught her wrist before she could retreat. Not hard, just enough. Her laughter faded. I turned her hand over and traced the faint smear of blue paint near her thumb. She always had paint somewhere. Even dressed up for an open house in a cream sweater and jeans, she carried color with her. You don't have to buy that house to prove you're allowed to want a home, I said. Her eyes shone again, but she smiled. And you don't have to keep pretending this is just pretend. My thumb stilled against her palm. The diner noise blurred around us. Is it? I asked. Clara looked at our joined hands, then at me. I don't know, she said softly, but I wanted to find out today. Before I could answer, her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at the screen and all the warmth drained from her face. I looked down. A text preview glowed there. Mom. Heard you're looking at houses with a man. Call me now. Clara flipped her phone face down like it had insulted our waitress. I still had her wrist in my hand. Neither of us moved. Your mom has impressive range, I said carefully. Does she have the house bugged or just the diner? Clara tried to smile. It failed halfway. Raleigh is a city until your mother needs gossip. Then it's a hallway. I let go of her wrist only so I could slide my hand over hers properly. Who told her? My aunt probably knows Denise, or Denise knows my aunt, or a woman in the house across the street saw us and texted the church prayer chain. She sighed. It doesn't matter. It seems like it matters to your face. She looked at me then, and the vulnerability from the open house came back, but sharper now. My mother is going to turn this into a referendum. On real estate? On my life choices, my finances, my job, my relationship status. Her eyes flicked to mine. You. Something warm and reckless moved through me. Me specifically? You specifically, yes. I should have worn a tie. Jonah. Sorry. But she laughed. Tiny, reluctant. I counted it as a victory. Her phone buzzed again. She ignored it. Then it buzzed a third time. I hated watching her fold inward, like every vibration was a hand pressing between her shoulder blades. Answer if you need to, I said. I don't want to. Then don't. It's not that simple. It can be for one plate of pancakes. Clara looked down at our hands. You always do that. What? Make me feel like the world can wait. The sentence hit me low and deep. For 6 years, I'd been proud of being useful to Clara. Fixing curtain rods, bringing soup, standing beside her when she needed someone steady, but this wasn't usefulness. This was her telling me I gave her breathing room. I wanted to be more than a pause in her chaos. I wanted to be where she came home. I don't want to be temporary either, I said. Her eyes lifted. The diner clatter went soft around us. I hadn't planned to say it there, between syrup bottles and bacon grease, with her mother calling like a siren from under the phone. But the words were already out, and once they existed, there was no stuffing them back into friendship. Clara's thumb brushed my knuckle. What does that mean? It means I'm done pretending I don't notice when you walk into a room. My voice came out quiet but steady. I'm done acting like I don't think about you when I see porch swings or ugly mugs or corner brownies. And I'm really done pretending today didn't feel good just because it started as a lie. Her lips parted. I forced myself to continue before courage abandoned me. It means if you want to find out whether this is pretend, I'm in. Not because Denise thinks we have chemistry, not because your mom wants a report. Because I want you, Clara. Her eyes shone, but this time she didn't look away. You want me, she repeated. Badly, inconveniently, with poor timing. A laugh broke out of her, watery and beautiful. Your timing has always been questionable. My truck heater works in April. I'm consistent. She squeezed my hand. I was scared you'd be mad. I was. Her face fell. I lifted her hand and kissed her knuckles before she could pull away. Her breath caught exactly the way it had in that empty bedroom. I was mad, I said, because for 1 second I thought being your boyfriend was the easiest thing in the world. And then I remembered I wasn't allowed to want it. Clara stared at me like I'd just handed her something fragile. You were allowed, she whispered. That nearly undid me. Her phone buzzed again, skittering slightly against the table. Clara closed her eyes. I reached for my coffee with my free hand. Want me to fake my death? No. Fake yours? Tempting. We could move to a different bungalow under assumed names. That earned another smile. Then, she turned the phone over. 4 missed calls, 2 texts. Mom, this is not something I should hear from Rebecca. Mom, are you being reckless? Clara's jaw tightened. I felt the shift in her hand, the instinct to apologize for existing. Call her, I said softly. But don't shrink. She looked at me. I'll sit right here, I added. Steady, remember? She nodded once and answered the next call when it came. Hi, Mom. I couldn't hear every word from the other end, but I heard the tone. Bright concern weaponized into authority. Clara's fingers clamped around mine. No, I'm not engaged, she said. No, I'm not pregnant. God, Mom. I choked on coffee. Clara shot me a look that said, do not make this worse. I saluted with my mug. Yes, I looked at a house. With Jonah. A pause. Because I wanted him there. My heart turned over. Another pause. Then Clara straightened. No, he isn't some man. He's Jonah. I had never heard my name sound like that before, like an answer, like a line drawn in ink. Her mother talked for a long time. Clara listened, color high in her cheeks. Finally, she said, I'm hanging up now before we both say things we'll pretend not to remember at Thanksgiving. A beat. I love you too. She ended the call and set the phone down with exaggerated care. Well, I said, I'm honored to have avoided pregnancy rumors by name. Clara covered her face. Please never repeat that sentence. Too late, it's going in my vows. Her hands dropped. We both froze. Vows. I stared at my pancakes like they had betrayed me. Clara stared at me. Then, slowly, she smiled. Your fake vows? She asked. I swallowed. Obviously. Shame, I was curious. The air between us warmed again, different now, less accidental, more chosen. I leaned back, trying to regain any shred of dignity. They'd be excellent, practical, short, mentioning your inability to keep Basil alive, and your laundry chair. It's a family heirloom. It's from Target. We don't know its lineage. She laughed, and just like that, the phone call became background noise. Pressure, yes, but not the center. We were. After brunch, we walked downtown because neither of us seemed ready to get back in the car and decide what the day meant. The November air was cool enough that Clara tucked her hands into her sleeves, so I offered her my arm again. She looked at it. Are we still performing? No audience. Then what is this? A man hoping you'll touch him. Her cheeks went pink, but she took my arm. We wandered past shop windows and planters full of fading mums. At a crosswalk, someone bumped Clara from behind and she stepped into me. I put a hand at her waist to steady her. She didn't step back when the light changed. Instead, she looked up at me, close enough that I could see the gold flecks in her brown eyes. Jonah, she said, softer than traffic. Yeah? If we do this and ruin us, I don't know how to survive that. There it was, the fear under all of it. I cupped her cheek before I could talk myself out of it. Her skin was cool from the air, soft beneath my thumb. We don't have to sprint, I said. We can be careful. I don't want careful if careful means lying. Then honest, I said. Slow, but honest. Her gaze dropped to my mouth again. This time, no realtor interrupted. Clara rose on her toes and kissed me. It was gentle for about half a second. Then her fingers curled in the front of my jacket and I forgot downtown, forgot the house, forgot every sensible plan I'd ever made. I kissed her like I'd been waiting 6 years because I had. Like friendship was still there beneath us, strong enough to hold the weight of want. When we broke apart, she kept her forehead against my chin. Oh, she whispered. I laughed unsteadily. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. A good problem? The best problem I've ever had. Her smile brushed my collar, my phone rang. Clara groaned. If that's my mother, throw it into traffic. I checked the screen. Unknown number. I answered, still holding Clara close. Hello? A crisp voice said, Jonah Reed? This is Denise from the open house. I hope I'm not interrupting. I looked down at Clara. She mouthed, What? Denise continued, I just received word the seller is considering early offers. If you and Clara are serious, you may need to decide by tonight. Denise's words landed like a dropped plate. Tonight. Clara pulled back just enough to look at my face, her hands still gripping my jacket. I repeated it aloud because apparently I enjoyed watching panic bloom in real time. The seller is considering early offers. Clara's eyes widened. Tonight? Denise, bright and professional in my ear, said, I know it's a quick turnaround. I can send you lender contacts if you need them. Of course, if you're purchasing together… No, Clara and I said at the same time. Then we stared at each other. Denise paused. All right, well, Clara can call me directly if she wants to discuss options. Thanks, I said, and ended the call. For a second, we stood on the sidewalk in the aftermath of our first kiss and a real estate ambush, still close enough to share breath. Then Clara stepped back and pressed both hands to her cheeks. Oh my God. I know. We kissed. I noticed. And then Denise called about buying a house. She has terrible timing. Clara gave a slightly hysterical laugh. Jonah, I can't buy that house tonight. Okay. I mean, I probably can't buy it at all. Okay. And I definitely can't buy it with you. I put a hand over my heart. After all we've been through? The pancakes? The fake vows? She tried to glare, but her mouth betrayed her. I'm serious. So am I. I reached for her hand, slower this time. Clara, I don't want you making a 30-year decision because Denise saw chemistry and your mother activated the gossip militia. Her fingers slid into mine. But I want it. I know. I hate wanting it. I know that too. Her throat worked. If I don't try, I'll wonder. If I do try and fail, I'll feel stupid. You won't be stupid either way. How do you know? Because stupid would be letting fear make the decision for you. She looked down at our hands. Traffic moved around us. People passed with shopping bags and coffee cups, living normal Saturday lives while mine had become a before and after photo. Clara took a breath. Will you come with me to talk to my bank? Today? There's a branch near here open until 2. I glanced at my watch. That gives us 40 minutes. I know. You want your boyfriend to attend a financial meeting? Her eyes lifted, careful but teasing. My very new, very handsome, possibly temporary boyfriend. The word handsome hit me with embarrassing force. Possibly temporary? I said. I'm leaving room for your laundry chair to ruin things. I accept these terms. At the bank, Clara sat across from a loan officer named Mr. Patel and explained her salary, savings, student loans, and the tiny inheritance from her grandmother that she had never touched. I sat beside her, quiet unless she looked at me. She did look at me. Whenever numbers made her shoulders tighten. Whenever Mr. Patel said words like debt-to-income ratio. Whenever the dream started to seem too big. Each time I squeezed her knee under the desk. Not as rescue, as reminder. You're here, I'm here. Keep going. By the end, the answer was not yes. It was not no either. It was a cautious maybe with more paperwork than romance novels ever warned you about. Outside, Clara leaned against the brick wall of the bank and stared up at the gray sky. I thought I'd feel clearer, she said. Clarity is overrated. I once clearly believed I could cut my own hair. I remember, you looked like a startled otter. It was a bold season. She laughed, then went quiet again. What if this is too much? The house? She looked at me. Oh, us? My chest tightened. I stepped in front of her, close enough that the toes of our shoes almost touched. Then we say, it's too much for today, not too much forever. Her eyes searched mine. You can do that? Not rush? No. That startled a laugh out of her. I smiled. But I can try very hard because I don't want to scare you off. You don't scare me. Liar. Fine. You scare me a little. She lifted her hand and touched the edge of my jacket. But only because I know you. That's usually why people stop being scared. No, with you it's worse. Her voice softened. You know where all my doors are. I forgot how to joke. Clara looked at me like she hadn't meant to say that much. So, I gave her the same truth back. And you know where I hide the key. She reached for me then. Not tentatively, not as performance. She put both arms around my waist and tucked herself against my chest in the middle of the sidewalk like she needed the contact and had decided she was allowed to take it. I held her. Her hair brushed my jaw. Her breath warmed my shirt. For a full minute, neither of us solved anything. It was the best minute of my life. Finally, she murmured, if we don't buy a house today, are you still taking me on a real date? I smiled into her hair. Yes? What if we don't even make an offer? Yes. What if my mother asks if you have intentions? My intentions are honorable but enthusiastic. She snorted against my chest. Do not say that to her. Coward! She tipped her face up. Kiss me again and I'll consider defending you. I kissed her. This one was softer than the first, less surprised. A promise taking its time. Her hands tightened at my back and I felt the exact moment she stopped bracing for disaster and simply kissed me back. When we parted, her smile was shy. Clara win? Shy. I was doomed. We spent the next 2 hours at her apartment with a laptop, coffee, and a stack of papers spread across her kitchen table. It was not the sexiest second date, but every time Clara frowned at a form, she absently hooked her foot around my ankle under the table. I began to suspect domestic paperwork could be erotic if the right woman was doing it. At 5, Denise called Clara. Clara put it on speaker. Hi, Denise said. Just checking in. I don't want to pressure you, but I promise to keep you updated. There are 2 strong offers expected tonight. Clara closed her eyes. I stayed silent. This was hers. Denise continued. If you decide to submit, I'll need to know soon. Clara opened her eyes and looked at me. Not for permission, for steadiness. Then she said, I'm not making an offer tonight. Denise sounded surprised. Are you sure? Clara's fingers found mine beneath the table. Yes, if it's meant for me, I'll have to come to it honestly, not panicked. I had never been more attracted to anyone in my life. Denise softened. That's a healthy decision. I'll let you know if anything changes. The call ended. Clara stared at the phone. Then she folded forward and put her forehead on the table. I'm proud and devastated. I rubbed her back. That sounds about right. I want fries, excellent emotional processing, and a milkshake. I'm falling in love with your coping mechanisms. Her head lifted slowly. My hand stopped on her back. The room changed again. I had said falling in love too casually, like a joke, like it hadn't been sitting inside me for years with its coat on, waiting. Clara stared at me. I opened my mouth. She stood so fast her chair scraped the floor. For one horrible second, I thought she was going to ask me to leave. Instead, she walked around the table, climbed carefully into my lap, and put her hands on my shoulders. My brain emptied. Say it again, she whispered. I looked up at her, heart pounding. No! Her eyebrows lifted. If I say it now, I said, voice rough, you'll think it's because of the house, or the day, or because you're sitting on me and I've lost access to reason. Her mouth curved. Have you? Completely. She brushed her fingers through my hair. Then say something else, honest. I held her waist, feeling the warmth of her through her sweater. I want our first date to start now, I said. I want to buy you fries and a milkshake. I want to walk you home even though we're already in your apartment. And at the end of the night, I want to kiss you at your door like I haven't been waiting 6 years to do it. Her eyes went bright. That's very honest, she said. I'm experimenting. She leaned down until her mouth hovered over mine. For the record, I want that too. The kiss she gave me was slow, sweet, and devastating. Then her phone buzzed on the table. We both ignored it. It buzzed again. Clara sighed against my mouth. If that is my mother... I glanced over her shoulder. It's Denise. Clara went still. A voicemail notification appeared, then a text. Denise. The top offer just fell through. Seller asked, specifically if you're still interested. Call me. Clara read Denise's text over my shoulder. For a moment, neither of us breathed. She was still sitting in my lap, one hand in my hair, her mouth swollen from kissing me, while the house she had just chosen not to chase came knocking again. Well, I said carefully, that's dramatic. Clara laughed once, but it sounded shaky. The universe has terrible boundaries. Agreed. She looked at the phone, then at me. I saw the old panic try to rise in her, the urge to grab or run, to turn a want into a test of whether she deserved it. So I kept my hands at her waist and said, You don't have to answer yet. I do, though. No, you have to decide. That's different. Her expression softened. That was when I knew the day had changed us. Not because we'd kissed, not even because I'd practically confessed I was falling in love with her, but because Clara didn't climb off me and retreat into jokes. She stayed close. She trusted me with the messy middle of her fear. What if I make an offer and don't get it? She whispered. Then we get fries. What if I make an offer and do get it? Then we get fries and boxes. What if I'm not ready? Then you say no. What if I am ready and I'm just scared? I brushed my thumb along the side of her sweater. Then you tell the truth and do it scared. Her eyes searched mine. You won't think I'm ridiculous. I have seen you argue with a self-checkout machine for calling you unexpected baggage. It was rude. You are many things, Clara Wynne. Ridiculous is sometimes one of them. But not for wanting a home. She bent forward until her forehead touched mine. I don't want to buy it because I pretended you were my boyfriend, she said. Good. And I don't want you tangled in my mortgage because we kissed twice and lost our minds. Also good, though for the record, I lost mine years ago. Her breath caught. I hadn't meant to say it like that. But there it was, sitting between us, honest and impossible to unsay. Clara leaned back just enough to see my face. Years? I swallowed. Yeah. How many? Do we need exact accounting? Jonah. I sighed. Probably around the night you fell asleep on my couch during that terrible pirate movie and woke up mad at me because Dream Me stole your soup. Her eyes filled with warmth. That was 3 years ago. I said, probably. Coward. Deeply. She touched my cheek and her smile trembled. I think mine started with the bookshelf. What bookshelf? The one you built for my classroom after the old one collapsed. You stayed until midnight sanding the edges because you didn't want my students getting splinters. She looked down, shy again. I watched you label the shelves with painter's tape and thought, oh no. My heart went still. Oh no, I repeated. Oh no, he's the kind of man who stays. There was no joke left in me after that. I kissed her because I had to, because some truths didn't need more language. She kissed me back with both hands on my face, and it felt less like beginning than recognition. When we finally separated, she reached for the phone, not for my lap. She called Denise sitting right there, shoulder pressed to mine, my arms loose around her. Hi, Clara said, I'm interested. But I need to be clear. The offer would be from me alone. Denise said something I couldn't hear. Clara glanced at me. Jonah is here because I want him here, not because I need him to make this decision. I smiled so hard it hurt. They talked numbers, deadlines, pre-approval, earnest money, things that should have killed the romance completely, except Clara kept lacing and unlacing her fingers with mine while she listened. By the end, she had decided to submit a careful offer. Not desperate, not reckless. Hers. After she hung up, she exhaled like she had been holding her breath since childhood. I did it, she said. You did. I might not get it. I know. She looked at me, eyes bright and brave. Take me for fries anyway? I stood with her in my arms, nearly tripped over the chair, and said, that is exactly the kind of girlfriend behavior I support. She froze. I froze. Then she smiled slowly. Girlfriend? I cleared my throat. Too soon? No. She slipped, her hands into mine. Just making sure this promotion also has paperwork. I can make a sign-in sheet. I'll write boyfriend in very nice handwriting. We went for fries and milkshakes, and that became our first real date. At the end of the night, I walked her from her parking lot to her apartment door, even though her car was 10 feet away and mine was beside it. Clara leaned against the doorframe, wearing my jacket, her hair windblown, her smile soft. So, this is the part where you kiss me like you waited 6 years, she said. Technically, 3 to 6. Jonah. I kissed her until the porch light flickered above us. 2 days later, her offer was accepted. She cried in my truck when Denise called. Then she punched my arm because I cried too and made it worse. She bought the house on her own. I carried boxes, assembled shelves, argued with a curtain rod, and learned that Clara's version of unpacking involved starting 12 projects and finishing none of them, unless bribed with tacos. We dated slowly, honestly. Some nights I went home to my apartment above the dentist's office, and some nights we sat on her porch swing until midnight, holding hands under a blanket, talking about everything we had been too careful to say before. By the following spring, the green kitchen had a chipped mug on the shelf from her grandmother's house. The built-ins held my paperbacks mixed with her sketchbooks. 3 plants had died in a loving home. One Saturday morning, Clara stood at the sink in bare feet, and one of my old shirts, sunlight in her hair, humming while she made coffee. I came up behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist. She leaned back into me like it was the easiest thing in the world. Do you ever think about how this started? She asked. You mean when you committed emotional real estate fraud? With beautiful penmanship. I kissed the side of her neck. Best crime of my life. She turned in my arms, coffee forgotten, and looked up at me with that brave, soft expression that still undid me. I love you, she said. I had imagined hearing it 100 different ways. None of them prepared me for the quiet certainty of it in that green kitchen. I love you too, I told her. Outside, the porch swing moved gently in the morning breeze, waiting for us. What would you have done if your best friend took you to an open house and suddenly told the realtor you were her boyfriend? Have you ever experienced something similar, where a pretend moment exposed real feelings? Tell your story in the comments. Before I go, I need your help protecting Whispered Maybe. Some channels have been copying our titles, thumbnails, and story style right after we post. and it has started to hurt the performance of our original videos. Honestly, it has been discouraging for us because we work hard to bring these stories to this community. So, if you see a channel copying Whispered Maybe in a way that could confuse viewers, please help us report it to YouTube under impersonation. I'll pin the simple steps in the comments. Thank you for helping protect the original stories and this community. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.